Oh, wait. There we go. Do. Forgive me. Here we go. And three. We're going to go with the old one. Oh, wait. Hang on. Hello, hello, and welcome back to Retrieving Sanity with your podcast host, Keegan. And this is your podcast for all mental health, addiction, recovery issues, and topics. Sorry, hang on. There we go. Anyways, we just got home from Podcast Movement 2025, day one, the setup. Now, is it really like the setup? Well, not really. It's not like a setup in like a crime or anything, mind you. No, it's a setup because it was new orientation for new members, right? So for people like me, whose first time it is there, it was basically a day of saying, here's what to expect, here's how to use the app, and here's how to make the best of Podcast Movement 2025. Now, ah, so it's going to be really, really cool. Looking at the attendees, like scrolling through it, there's a lot. A lot of people are coming. A lot. And I'm scared. Not gonna lie, I'm a little scared. Ugh. Also got a little bit of burpee, thanks to my sparkly water of sorts. Anyways, and I just ate dinner because I didn't eat all day since I was there. But, anyways, so what did I get from this first day? Well, I really got that networking is going to be the number one thing to do there. And number two, it's going to be a source of inspiration, a source of knowledge and experience that I wouldn't be able to get elsewhere. So I definitely need to network. Everything else that I'm looking for, such as trying to grow my audience, trying to make the podcast better, maybe monetize, so on and so forth, all of that will come through the networking aspect, right? So that's a little scary because I have to sit there and talk to people. I have to initiate the conversations. I have to lead the conversations. I have to direct people. I have to tell them that what I offer is worth it and what I offer is good enough. And that's really hard to do whenever you don't have a whole lot of self worth and self belief. But here I am, I'm trying. So now, now that we've got the lessons aspect out of the way of what I really got out of the first day, let me actually tell you how it went down because it's a little weird and it wouldn't be me otherwise. So, uh, now, mind you, Podcast Movement 2025 this year is happening in Grapevine. So that's about a 35 to 45-minute drive for me, depending on traffic. So I was like, all right, I don't need a hotel room. This is awesome. So I'll just drive there every day and we'll be good, save a whole bunch of money, all that stuff. Well, I'll be tickled pink whenever I got there. I didn't know exactly where to park, mind you, and I didn't know exactly where it was happening at the resort, if you will. Instead of a hotel, it's more of a resort. But it didn't really say where. It was like convention center, kind of, sort of, and there's not really it was hard to figure out where to go. I wasn't the only one. I came to find out, thankfully. But anyways, I went up to the main parking spot and everything, and I just rolled down my window and I was like, "Hey, valet guys, where do I park for the Podcast Movement 2025?" And they were like, "What?" So I was like, "Podcast Movement 2025, you know, like the convention going on." He was like, "Oh yeah, you just park over here." Or he didn't even say the convention center parking. Now that I think about it, he just told me the main garage. So I was like, okay. So to find my way there, and then I go to park, and it's like, oh, I'm going to have to pay a lot of money just to park. Ah, it was like, I think the cheapest is like $18 or $20, and that was for like 2 hours. I was like, what the fuck? And then it goes all the way down to 4 hours, and then after 4 hours, it's to 24 hours, and it's $31.95 plus tax. So at the end, it's like $35. So in the end, I've got to spend $120 in parking just to attend this event. So I'm not happy about that. A lot of the other people that I spoke to, about it are also not happy whatsoever. Like, I wouldn't mind paying for parking if it was like $5 or $10 because it was discounted because I'm going to an event, so I'm going to go there every day. But now, after speaking to some of the people that work there, it's like, I may just, drive over to the Grapevine Mall and Uber over to the resort. Some people said it may be cheaper. I don't know. And I'm also like, I don't know the Grapevine Mall. Like, I will very likely lose my car if I do that. So maybe not. I don't know. We'll decide. It's something that it's one of those costs. Like, it's part of the experience, I guess. And so I kind of have to eat it. So we'll see. But whenever I first got there, I'm trying to figure out where to go and everything. So I'm having to ask questions, directions, and stuff like, hey, where am I going? I'm looking around, and there's other people, but they seem a little like they're working there. They don't seem lost. They don't seem like they're podcasters or anything. So I was like, okay, well, here we go. So I eventually found my way to where, like, there's, whenever you're at the airport and you have that line of computers and people are like getting their tickets and checking in their luggage and stuff, it was like that, but just empty and stuff because people were just setting everything up. So there's all these signs everywhere, and I was like, okay, cool. Where do I go? So I wandered around until someone eventually was like, hey, where are you going? And I was like, I don't know. I'm trying to figure that out. So they told me where to go for the new orientation for the new members. So I wound up over there. I heard people talking about like letting people in or something like that. And so I figured out where to go. And I was like, all right, that's where I'm going. So I walk past these people, and then I walk into the room, and I'm the first one in the room. And I was like, oh, um, so I just decided to go and sit down, and then I sat down, waited. Oh, the people that I passed were the people presenting the orientation, so I got to speak to one of them, and then I was in a corner, mind you, that's normally what I do, and then some other people slowly started kind of getting there, but I was sitting there writing in one of my little journals, and I made a little sigil, and it was for making solid friends. So after I finished it, I was like, what am I doing? I'm just sitting here in the corner whenever some other people have gotten here, so I need to like make myself in a little spot that's more talkable and stuff. So there's a gentleman that came in, and I sat a chair away from him, a few tables over, so I had to move and all that. And he is the host of a podcast called New Mission Old Ways, I believe it was. I want to make sure I get it right. New Mission Old Ways with Tony Murray Nacio. He's a banker, really awesome dude. So what he's doing is essentially taking old theologies and mindset methods, if you will, and applying them to the new age, the new day, figuring out like how to help people get rid of their root problems and better themselves. So it was a really cool, interesting concept that I was like, we should figure something out. We should talk and all that. So gave him a business card. I got his business card. We talked for a little bit, and then the orientation kind of kicked off. We did a little bit of a round table, so everyone kind of got to introduce themselves to each other. And one of the things, so after we got to introduce each other to each other, they had people introduce someone else from their table to the rest of the room with a microphone. So I was like, okay, so someone else over on the other side did it, and then I was like, okay, well, I'm here to be like learn how to step out of my comfort zone, stuff like that. So I was like, okay, I'll go ahead and like introduce Tony, so I can get his podcast name out there and stuff. So I did that, and then they had the people that were introduced reintroduce the person that introduced them, and then after that, they had us work on elevator pitches within our table. And then after that, they had us nominate someone from our table to go up on stage to give their elevator pitch. Well, guess who went and gave their elevator pitch? And guess who got done working on an elevator pitch the other day with the podcast class with the Next Level Podcast? This dude. So I was ready. I was ready for that. I was like, oh, I've got it. I'm ready. I was like ready-ish, but then once I started trying to tell my own table, I was like, it's for this. So I had to sit there and kind of like guide myself on it. But anyways, so first the we have to line up over at the stage. No one was nominating anyone at my table, so I just like kind of got up and was like, if you guys don't want to, I will. Like, they were offering critiques on the pitches, so I was like, I kind of want to hear what these speakers are going to say about mine. So, got up there. I was the third person. First person, uh, he had an interesting one. It was called Yolitics or something like that. It was pretty interesting, but it is him and his buddies drinking craft beers. They travel around Texas talking about Texan politics. So I was like, okay, that sounds like interesting-ish. It sounds very Texan. Uh, but his elevator pitch flopped hard. So he got a lot of not critiquing or judgment, but a lot of pointers into how to refine it, like on the spot. It was pretty cool. Second guy went up there. There's something about renting. Is his podcast like helping people be a renter or something like that? I was like, that's a rich person thing, not for me. So, but he went up there. He did his elevator pitch. Bam, perfect. Everyone was like, well, no critiques here, no nothing, no questions. So then it was my turn. So I go up there and I tell them, hello, and not talking to the hosts. I was talking to the audience, and I was like, hello. My name's Keegan. I'm the host of Retrieving Sanity, a mental health show where we discuss, where we talk about recovery, focused healing, from addictions and traumas with personal experiences. And I was like, turned to the host, so I was like, okay, like that was it. And they're like, oh, yeah. The only thing they had was, wait, I just didn't catch the name of it. So I was like, Retrieving Sanity, and they're like, oh, Recovering Sanity. And this is where I'm like, I know that my name it's really spot on, but at the same time, it's really hard to market proper. So I'm like, fuck. But they were like, she said, well, I would just slow it down a little bit, and I was like, and I don't know what possessed me to do it, but mind you, I'm on stage, microphone in hand, and she's like, just I would slow down that first part a little bit, and I was like, ADHD, the movement and everything, just ADHD, and everyone in the audience just laughed, and I was like, oh yeah, what the hell was that? And I was like, okay, well, here we are, anyways. So they're like, yeah, okay. But they were like, no, it's perfect. We know what you're talking about. You have good delivery and stuff, blah, blah. And I was like, okay, cool. So, long story short, the second guy was the one that got the book, How to Build a Strong Podcast or something like that, by one of the people that was presenting. So that was pretty cool. But let's see. Then we had a little bit more of figuring out the podcast app. So we figured out how to talk to other members at the thing. Sorry, Jordy's texting me, and I feel. Oh my goodness. Oh my God, it's phone. Sometimes I really want to throw this phone. Sometimes I really do, because it will just fuck up in the stupidest ways. And I'm sure you know the exact same feeling that I'm feeling right now. Anyways, so while everything was kind of cooling down from that, Tony and I were speaking more about our podcast and stuff, trying to figure out like maybe not into similarities, but trying to pick each other's brains into what does this person do that might work for me, so on and so forth. So, we let's see, broke off, and then there was a couple of other podcasting classes. One of them was Podcast Primer for new podcasters. Kind of wish I went to that one. a new system of sorts. It's actually not new. Like, that's the weird thing. It will make streaming and publishing your video podcast a million times easier and more like flowable. So like you could sit there and you could be listening to the audio version on your phone and you could just tap a button and the video pop up, or vice versa. It starts video, you just tap a button and the video goes away and you're just listening into audio only. I was like, that's really cool. And so like we have to reach out to Apple, tell them to get it, even though they're the originators of it and they don't use it anymore because it is a but that was the thing. After that class, I was talking to Tony again, and I was like, man, being in that class, it really showed me how much I really don't know about this whole industry. And he was like, but that's a good thing. Like, that's what you came here for. And I was like, yeah, you're absolutely right. That is what I came here for. And as we were talking about our shows and stuff, one of the things that he was talking about was we were talking about like microphones and stuff because he was sitting there and having troubles trying to either do breathing or like we were also talking about like where we record, so like the sound environment, how we have to take care of that kind of stuff. And he was talking about how he's a heavy breather, and I was like, dude, I'm right there with you. So sometimes I'll be editing my stuff and I'm like, and I'll sit there in post production. I'm like, why did I breathe that extra like 2.5 seconds or something? And it's silly, but that's the thing, right? Like, y'all can hear this and live stream. I can't really do anything about it besides just move away from the microphone a little bit and go from there. But that was the thing, is that I was telling him like, like my podcasting game changed entirely whenever I learned to stand up. Like whenever I converted my desk into a standing desk, my confidence rose. So whenever it goes from nothing to a little bit, it feels like a lot. And so it went from that, and I can control like how I'm talking into the microphone a little bit easier because I can be here, I can be here, I can be here, you know. So that's the thing. I have a little bit more control about it. So if I need to, I can kind of like move away or whatever, but so long as I'm not going and whatnot, you know. So he was like, "Oh wow, like I never thought about that. Like holy crap." And there was something else that I had talked to him about, but he was like I've already taught him two different things, and I was just like, okay, and he was sitting there just already instilling like encouragement to me of like, hey, you're here to learn, you know, like it's okay. Like no one at that convention is there because they are. Well, that's the weird thing too. Like it's such a different skill level. The amount of conversations I was hearing in the side and all that was crazy. I was like, man, that's a probably interesting podcast. That I heard someone else sitting. They were in front of me before we were getting our badges, and their podcast was talking about whiskey and something else, and they were trying to figure out how to make it new and interesting or something. And my thought was like, why don't you do like whiskey and talking about history and stuff like that? And I don't know. I was like, why am I having? And then people were walking past me with alcohol and stuff, and I was like, I do not need to be here. And then my stomach got upset. So if you don't know, in recovery and stuff, my body decided even thinking about alcohol is not good. So I'm sitting there getting upset, having to like turn on the part of my brain that I hadn't needed to turn on for a little bit. So I'm just kind of sitting there spacing out. And then Melissa, I believe it is, double checking. So after that first orientation, a couple of people came up. One person came up and was talking to me about how they have their podcast. Oh crap, what was it about? But he was mostly talking about how he's 7 years sober, and I was like, oh cool. So someone came up and talked to me about that for a real short bit, but then someone else came up to me, and I won't say her name, just for purposes. But she has a podcast about bouncing back from chronic illnesses, and she came up to me though, and she was like, we were talking about it, and then before we broke off from our conversation, she was like, oh, hey, I'm this too. And I was like, oh, that's cool. And then we went off on a conversation about that. And if you're wondering what I'm talking about, I'm not going to, for the sheer fact that this is involving someone else in their practices, and they probably don't want it to be known too well. So that is as much as I will say. Ta-da! But it's interesting that I found another double like-minded person there. So then, oh, I also came across someone that found Atlantis. Now, y'all are going to sit there and be like, what? Finding Atlantis? That doesn't sound right. Nah, it was. It was so cool. So I'm sitting there talking to the dude, and he's sitting there telling me about how his information and stuff has been just wiped off of Google, YouTube, stuff like that. And I was like, oh, dude, that sucks. But oh no, it's got to be here somewhere. Oh, I know where it's at. I'm silly. I left my. So I got this from one of the guys that was next to us at the first table. I got this from that person bouncing back, and then I got this one from Mike, the Mike to Mike podcast talking about sports. So then, let's see. So I got to get the fancy pocket out. So I got my normal business cards in my pocket, and I got the fancy business card with it as well. So NFC card. It's pretty cool. I just got to make sure to not hand that one away, because it looks the exact frickin' same as the others. I kind of screwed myself on that, but anyways, so if you want to know about Atlantis, check out Eddie Weaver and the Antediluvian Signature free ebook on Amazon, The Walls of Civilization. So, well, there we go. Yeah. And so what you're actually seeing, like in this little blue part, is a wall, right? And down here are some temples. So that's all underwater. And he was showing me other topographical maps of the ocean floor and stuff. It's south of Jamaica, about 10 and a half hours off the coast. And so I was like, oh, wow. So he went there himself, checked it out with a whole bunch of people. And then he was talking about how at first, to get permission to do it and stuff, they had like someone and they were really excited about it. But then once he got passed up the ladder to the higher ups, and they couldn't do it anymore because of trouble. And so now he's trying to get this kind of stuff out there. So he's trying to get the truth out there about Atlantis and stuff. And it's just interesting because I was like, that it was. I mean, I'm one of those people, right? I believe that it was there. Plato wrote about it. It's in a whole bunch of actual history, and so like it was there. And then you dive into it. Every 12,000 years or so, the poles on this Earth flip, and then usually ends up causing an ice age of sorts or something, and the ecosystem just kind of resets itself. And so that's kind of the thing, right? Like, that means Atlantis was actually thriving during and or before the last ice age, and probably during, because otherwise it'd be on the bottom of the ocean floor again. So that, anyways, it was really interesting talking to him. It was interesting talking to someone else that was like-minded in a way that I didn't think another podcaster would be, and then talking to another mental health of sorts podcaster. So all in all, the first day was awesome. I'm still I'm still not happy that everyone has to pay $120 if they want to park at the Gaylord Resort, whatever, for the 4 days of the podcast convention. 4 days at $35. Yeah, that's like, it's going to hurt a little bit. And it's funny, like I had a little bit of surplus, and so I was sitting there going like, man, I should get like some other shoes or maybe another shirt or something else. I was like, man, I don't know. Part of me was like, I feel like I need to hold on to that money for some reason. Turns out I need it for parking, so that sucks. But otherwise, we've got 3 more days of podcast conventioning, and it's going to be super freaking awesome because I'm going to learn all about audience retention, how to monetize podcast, and oh man, it's so cool. Like there's a lot of stuff. Like right now, in 2 hours and then some, the kickoff party starts. But see, that's the thing. It's the only one that's going to happen on premises, and then the other ones are going to be off, and they don't start until like 8 or 8:30. But that's the thing. Like, I don't necessarily need to go to the parties, but I also want to because that's some networking. But I don't necessarily want to either because it's like, like I don't know. Part of me wants to, part of me doesn't, and part of me just wants to get a lot of networking in while I can over there. So let's see. Tuesday, we've got a lot of stuff to check out. And the hard part is that it's like there's going to be two or three, four things going on all at the same time or more, and it's like, oh, okay, now I have to be intentional with which places I go to. What do I want to actually like what do I want to learn about? What can I learn about? And that's another thing is that if I had a pass higher, I would have access to all the keynotes after everything is said. So once everything wraps up, I would actually have recordings of the whole session, but I'm not. I am on the scholarship thingamabobber, which is just a creator pass. So I'm internally grateful for everything that this entails. Like I wouldn't be doing this episode right now otherwise. And that's the thing is that this is just opening up the door for a whole bunch of opportunities, and not only opportunities like from the outside influences. What it's doing is that it is opening up opportunities within myself to say, look, explore this route, explore this avenue, think about this, try this perspective on for size, so on and so forth. It's going to be something that is just, it reverberates. It is going to carry with me so long as I don't sit there and let the comparative aspect weigh me down. And that's a hard part, right? I'm there. I'm talking to a bunch of other podcasters. I'm talking to other people that have shirts with their podcast name and stuff. And I'm like, dude, like I'm with my people. I haven't asked other people how many downloads their show is getting, but I'm pretty sure it's a whole lot more than mine. But it's interesting because I'm also probably one of the few that has it on radio stations. So I don't know how that works. I don't know how it translates. I don't know. So I'm grateful that I get to sit here and pick other people's brains about it, but I'm really upset that my inner part of me that doesn't want to annoy people and stuff is sitting here going like, I don't want to interrupt a conversation. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. And one of the guys that presented the new orientation said, so what you're going to do to like really figure out and talk to people is just you see a conversation happening, butt in, and not rudely or anything, just like hop on into the side, and like listen and stuff. You don't like the conversation, just leave. If you really like it, just kind of stick there, and someone's going to notice you, make room for you and stuff. And I was like, oh, okay. I should have done that. I should have done that a little bit more today, but it is my first time getting my feet wet, talking to brand new strangers and everything like that, because some of the people were from the Dallas area, some of them were not from the Dallas area, like Tony with New Mission Old Ways. He's from Buffalo, New York, I believe. And then the person from Bouncing Back is from Sanger, I think, so here in Texas. So, like, I met Mike is from Dallas area. So there's some people that are local, some people that are from far away for this event. So, like I said, there's going to be opportunities, experiences here, and just answers that I wouldn't be able to get elsewhere or otherwise. And I don't know how else to make the best of it. And I think one of the things while I was there, I was contemplating like, who do I talk to? What do I do? Like, because after I got my badge, there's nothing else to do except for sit there and just be like, all right, network for a little bit, which I did like a teensy bitsy tiny bit. Like by that I mean like 3 minutes maybe. The rest of it was sitting there, just going on my phone, trying to figure out like what I'm going to do tomorrow maybe. uh Maybe check out some of the other attendees, see what their podcasts are, and then I did some tarot. So the tarot, the first one I got was Page of Wands, then I got the Four of Cups, and then I got the Moon. So my message that I was getting from that is that I've got to take action, but I can't sit there and feel like bleh, whatever, and then use my intuition to help guide me through the whole thing. I don't know how it's going to really go, but that's the whole point of it, is that we don't know what this has in store for me just yet. And that's the scary part, but it's also the exciting part. But I just have to make sure that I actually go and talk to people, and that is hard to do. And it's going to be even weirder tomorrow because we are going to have headphones that we sit there and we dial in to the stage we want to listen to, because it's all in one giant room. And the thing is that it's sequestered off into these other spots. And then we're going to have to sit there and dial in our headphones to the stage we're at to really make sure we're getting everything. So it's going to be like going up to someone like, hey, you want to talk real quick? Huh? What? Yeah, no, sorry, bud. Like, it's going, I don't know. It's going to be interesting. So tomorrow we're going to check back in. I've got podcast class after everything. So that's kind of the thing too. Like I'll probably be attending the podcast class at the end of whatever session is going on over there, because I think everything goes on until about 7:30. And then yeah, that's it. Like today was a bunch of networking. It was a lot of learning, and again, biggest lesson for me is I need to network. I need to get out of my comfort zone, and I can't compare myself because I'm doing it right now in this moment. I'm sitting here talking to a part of me is talking to a part of me that's saying, see, all these other people are confident. That's why they're doing better with their show. That's why they're doing this. That's why they're doing that. And I can't do that to myself. And it's hard. It is really, really hard. But it goes back to what the person said. I think her name was Jennifer. No, Jenny, maybe. It's with the person that was doing the new member orientation this morning that said I was speaking a little bit fast. It goes back to that. It goes back to just taking a breath, slowing down, thinking things through. So sometimes I just need to think things through a little bit more, plan ahead. Maybe everything will come out a little bit better, but I feel inadequate a lot of the time. I feel like I don't deserve a lot of things, and I'm working on it. It's hard to do. It is one of those things that whenever I've had to have outside validation tell me certain things are true, I kind of need that same outside validation to reinforce the opposite. You know? At least that's kind of what's my brain is telling me. And I know that's not the case. So I need to figure that out, and maybe after some meditation tonight, I'll be able to figure out what's blocking like this little part in me right up here, and then allow the rest of me to just kind of flow. And then maybe everything will just kind of work out okay. So with that, we're going to end this here. Check us out tomorrow as we dive into Podcast Movement 2025, Day 2. I don't know. Day 1 is the setup, and day 2 we shall call it the trial, and then day 3 is the tribulations, and then day 4 is the reprieve, I guess. So I don't know. We'll see how it feels. But for that being said, go ahead and stop on over YouTube if you're not already there. Hit subscribe, leave a comment. Let me know if you're actually at Podcast Movement 2025. If you were, did you see me? Did I see you? Did we talk already? If not, let me know, and maybe we can catch each other over there next time. So with that being said, we're just going to end it here. But again, much love to you. Try to love others if you can, but love yourself first, and just try to be a good person. And with that being said, much love. Schlan gefallen.